Robert Inlakesh, a Middle East political journalist who joins me from the United Kingdom via Zoom. Thank you so much for joining us on World Now. Gaza Strip is home to more than 2 million people, making it one of the most densely populated areas in the world. There is no absolutely empty area in Gaza. So one can only imagine the amount of destruction every rocket would cause. What's your reading of the latest Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
Well, certainly the people of Gaza are trapped at this moment. Israel started the aggression with a series of strikes at 2 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. This killed entire families along with three leaders of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement, and then proceeded yesterday to target entire homes and bring down family homes in order to put pressure on the armed groups in Gaza not to continue to respond. So the Israeli aggression is something that they started. It was completely unprovoked. These are extrajudicial killings. It broke the ceasefire. And the rocket response actually came a day and a half afterwards. They waited that long to respond. Israel, in the meantime, bombarded Gaza repeatedly to try and get a quick response, to try and have this round over. They're attempting to isolate the Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement, and they just killed another leading member, a commander in the rocket unit for Palestinian Islamic Jihad just about 30 minutes ago now. And their aim is to separate Islamic Jihad from Hamas. That's not proven successful. Now, Hamas has not launched a full-scale war using its Al-Qassam brigades and its strongest munitions yet, but Hamas is coordinating absolutely everything that's going on right now. And this is something the Israelis want to hide because to their own population, they want to tell them that Hamas is not involved because they want a quick political victory for the Benjamin Netanyahu government. This comes after two embarrassments which were served to the Netanyahu government over the past month, especially during Ramadan, when rockets were fired from Lebanon and the Israelis were too petrified to fire back for fear of provoking a response from Hezbollah. So this is really a political move by the Israeli government to appease the coalition, the far-right elements of the coalition, Itamar Ben-Gvir, Bezalel Smotrich, and others. And the Palestinian civilian population are paying the price. They're the majority of the victims. Almost half the victims at this point are women and children.
Well, do you then agree with the Norwegian Refugee Council, who said that the renewed conflict in Gaza shows that the international community has failed in preventing Israel from using unnecessary lethal force against civilians and ensuring basic needs for the population it occupies?
Well, it's interesting because Israel constantly claims that it is Hamas and Islamic Jihad and the other groups which use Palestinian civilians as human shields. Yet Israel fires, its military fires from miles away in the distance in fortified areas and from fighter jets which are unreachable in the sky. It's about just as much courage it takes to fly a civilian plane from London to New York as it does to fly these fighter jet missions to bomb targets in Gaza. And they know that the groups in the Gaza Strip only have very primitive rockets, which are not guided. They have no guidance systems whatsoever. And that the Israeli civilian centers are actually going to be the targets where these rockets fall. So really, the Israelis are actually using their own civilians as human shields because they won't confront the groups, the armed groups in Gaza head on the ground. They're afraid of a ground invasion because of the loss of life of Israeli soldiers. They've cleared out from the border areas. They won't go anywhere near Gaza. They're petrified of losing soldiers. And the Netanyahu government simply just watches as the rockets come over into the Israeli settlement sites. And uses them basically as his human shields and then claims victory after firing missiles from a distance where these soldiers can't be hit. So it's a political, an attempt for a political victory. It's trying to replicate what happened under Yair Lapid's government last year in August when a similar operation was carried out by the Israeli military. And really, it's a very cowardly way of doing it. The only way Israel can possibly take out the rocket launchers, the only way they can possibly combat the groups and prevent further escalation in the future is to go in on the ground. But they won't do it because they're afraid of the political backlash from losing their soldiers when they go in on the ground.
Well, you yourself, I mean, you've been following a lot of issues happening within, Palestinian, especially with the conflict between Palestine and Israel. You actually live there, the occupied Palestinian territories. But then, looking at the Western media coverage of the killing of Palestinians, including children, in the Israeli attack on Gaza, they said it has been roundly condemned on social media. But how would you describe the role Western media have been playing in spotlighting the evil going on between these belligerent countries?
Well, it's very clear. Israel carried out the strikes first. It started this round. It massacred a number of civilians. And for a day and a half, there was no rocket fire towards the Israeli side. Now, the rockets have still, to this point, not killed a single Israeli. In fact, all of the deaths have been on the Palestinian side. So it's not even a case of, 100 to 1 dead or something like this, like we saw in past conflicts. We're literally talking about no dead Israelis. There's been no Israeli casualties, yet Western media and government highlight the rocket fire constantly. And the United Kingdom, EU countries such as France and Germany, along with the United States, have not only approved of what Israel is doing. The United States had pre-knowledge that Israel was going to carry out these strikes, but is continually condemning only Gaza for its firing of what's described as indiscriminate rockets. And it's funny because they say that these indiscriminate rockets target civilians when they cannot. Indiscriminate means it cannot target anything. So you cannot, by definition, with an indiscriminate munition, target anyone. It's impossible to do so. And that's why, under international law, there's an argument to say that it's illegal. So in this case, they're condemning the victim who has had all the casualties, who is defending themselves, and they are siding with the aggressor. And this is clear cut. There's no way, there's no gray area with this at this.
That's very chilling to hear. But then it's pretty important to understand the perspectives of Israelis and Palestinians on the conflict and how they can be reconciled. So what do you think are the potential solutions to this conflict, and what are the obstacles to implementing them?
In the long term, there is no solution on the table at this current point. It's futile talking about a one-state, two-state at this point. The Israelis will not allow it. They are the occupying power. The Israeli society has an insatiable bloodlust for Palestinians at this point, and destroying Palestinian life in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. They want to annex it. These are members of the government, extremist, ISIS-like minded settler extremists in the government, the Israeli government at this point. So a long-term conflict, I don't believe is on the table at this point. No side is accepting this. There's nothing on the table. When it comes to the short term, a ceasefire probably will be adopted in the coming days, I would imagine. It could take around a week. I think in a few days, a ceasefire will be adopted, and there will be, again, a return to this violence. Maybe in a few weeks, maybe in a few months, maybe in another year this will happen, but it will continually keep happening because at the end of the day, the occupying power will not cede any ground and wants to take the entire country.
Absolutely. Only God knows exactly what's going to be done, whether the ceasefire will definitely take effect, because it's many years, decades of strife between the two countries. Middle East political journalist Robert Inlakesh, thank you so much for your keenness of insight on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.